Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you for listening to From the Gate podcast, where we bring you game, good times, and genuine conversation. I'm Lisi.
Ses.
Let's get it. All right, y'all. So we did cover 2 life principles, numbers 1, 2, and 3, and we've got 4 more left for you to go over today. Last time we covered trust and teamwork, balancing coverage, and preparation and adaptability. And actually these 3 kind of go hand in hand with the next 4 that we're going to cover. And so let's jump right into it. Shall we? We shall. Number 4, playing your zone. So in the cover 2 defense, we know that each player covers their own zones, and they have to trust the other teammates to be able to do their job. Whether it's... So in a cover 2 defense, when you are playing your zone, you trust your teammates to do their job. Whether it's a safety having to go out to the deep or the corners covering the flats, you trust that the people that are in certain positions are going to play those roles in order to have a successful defensive strategy. And so when it comes to playing your zones, what happens if a safety decides, I'm not going to go deep, I'm just going to stay in the intermediate zone? You leave it wide open for a huge play to happen. Correcto, Mundo?
Correcto.
And so, when it comes to playing zones, Ses, you play football, yeah?
Once upon a time,
What position did you used to play?
I played all positions, specifically on defense. The only thing I haven't really played was probably safety and cornerback. Nice. I've always wanted to, but I didn't have the ability to read the X's and O's for whatever reason. I didn't have the same eyes as everybody else, so I wasn't able to really read plays. It was just tackle the motherfucker with the football. That way, that's the only way I knew how to do it. It was like, motherfucker, you staying right here. You better get your...
you better stand firm right here.
And get on the 430.
What do you think is better, zones or man-to-man?
Just depends. I always prefer zone. Just cover the areas, what you're supposed to cover. So that way, the offense don't have a good play, huh?
So they don't make us gore. And so one of the life lessons that we get from this is that when it comes to playing your zone, to focus on your strengths and responsibilities and don't overstep or try to do too much. And I know for me, I am that person that tries to do too much. I'm always that person that oversteps and
extreme. Sorry, I just had a cough.
Oh yeah. I am that person that steps in and gets involved way too much, probably more than I need to for my own good. But when you focus on your strengths and your responsibilities, you become a better player in life, essentially. And then you're able to cover the areas that you know that you need to cover.
Player, huh?
Hey, I don't want to be playing no more. Nah, jokes. But just like how when you are playing your zones, it's not just all about you. And that's something that I often forget a lot of times, is that if I'm not playing my zone or if I'm not focusing on my responsibilities and whatnot, it affects everybody else that's on my team, whether they're on the field with me or on the bench watching. And so sometimes when I do too much or I take on things that I probably shouldn't take on in the first place, then that leaves everybody else open and vulnerable, which kind of goes into our next one. But next, number 5, going into overcoming vulnerabilities. In the cover 2 defense, it has known weaknesses. I mean, everything has weaknesses, flaws. All plans, all strategies has the weaknesses and flaws. You're never going to get anything that's 100% perfect. And that's why number 3, when it comes to cover 2 defense, the life principle we learned from that was preparation and adaptability. In order to overcome your vulnerabilities, you have to prepare and adapt, or you have to plan and adapt accordingly during the game.
And whoever, like, because I feel like most people don't probably have to experience to these type of depths, in a sense, because most people don't care or probably live to where it has to go that far or that long. You know what I mean? To experience these things. The good thing is about why football is such a great sport. It doesn't only teach you zone and man, but it just also teaches you how to make split decisions. I mean, yeah, because like most people don't have dramatic lives, I would say. Some more than others. Yours, you have a lot more drama than me.
Oh, yeah.
So, I don't understand when you say the vulnerability. And I was to go for the acknowledgement.
But actually, that's one of the keys when it comes to overcoming vulnerabilities is to acknowledge. When you acknowledge those weaknesses and when you acknowledge those flaws that you have in your plans or that you have in your strategies, or very important to acknowledge it, and then plan or strategize in order to or strengthen the areas that you know that can be strengthened.
There's some weak areas that need to be worked on,
Absolutely.
It's part of life. No one's perfect. And just recognizing that, yes. And then you go from there. And everybody's happier and shabbier.
I want you to be happier. But yeah, so when it comes to cover 2 defense, that's how they have a successful defensive strategy, is being able to spot the weaknesses and then adapt their plans accordingly in order to cover those weaknesses. And it's the same in life. We adapt, we make plans. Sometimes our plans fall through, sometimes we fail. But being able to adapt and being able to strengthen yourself during those moments of weakness.
That's called the truth changes. Just to be correct for the record.
The truth changes?
Yes. Just thought I had to throw that in there. So.
Number 6, y'all. Number 6 is long-term versus short-term focus. And so when it comes to cover 2 defense, it's designed to prevent the big plays while also addressing the short, quick passes that happen. And so, just like in life we all have long-term goals. Why you look at her like me do that one, huh?
I'm listening. Why are you over here like...
What's your thoughts on what's the significance of long-term versus short-term in the cover 2 defense?
Of course, you have big goals, okay? And it might take a few hurdles. It might take a few storms. It might take a few of everything. I mean, the way I have always learned is having small goals, and what he knows that would lead up to your big goal. So, by doing that, you tend to surpass your first big goal, and then you immediately create or you develop a second goal, third goal without even having to think twice.
Right.
And that's how that works, just like that. And then it becomes a habit, and it becomes an addiction. There you go. This is how I've always learned.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
I've always been a goals person, but my problem is...
If you were to tell me one time, let's put some goals, it looks good. It looks great on paper. It looks great on the wall. It looks good.
Right.
But just having to, okay, what do I got to do? I don't know. Everyone's different. For me, per se, would be, okay, I accomplished that, and then I'll get that, and then that. I don't know. Then you just keep going, and you start achieving so many things and unveiling so many talents you never knew you had. Shoo.
But yeah, I think for me personally, one of the disadvantages that I have, or maybe I'll say it's one of my weaknesses, is that when it does come to long-term goals, short-term actions, I always have these great goals in my head, but the short-term actions and the follow-through with the short-term actions sometimes is where I find myself struggling. Because it's so easy to look at the big goals and be like, oh my gosh, yes, that's what I'm going towards. And then when it comes to the follow-through or doing the work, the short-term work in order to get to that big goal, a lot of times it gets overlooked for me. And so it just kind of takes me back to like scripture where it says to be faithful in little things and you will be blessed with greater things. And so that's something that I'm learning now personally, is learning to be faithful to the short-term actions in order to accomplish the bigger goals.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's not an age that anyone's supposed to already understand and have it together. To be able to just sit here and have that discussion, going over these things, or, it speaks a lot about a person. If you were to ask me, hey, Seth, what was your plans back 20 years ago? Well, I came back from Utah, didn't have a job, wasn't in school. I was straight to my mama's couch, literally. Them old plastic at mama's couch. But yes, by the way, I'm the oldest and I was the last to have kids. So then, my brothers and sisters, they had their kids or whatever. So grandma's house was full, so luckily they had the couch where I could lay my head at, but that was the only place in the house that was for me to sleep. Anyways, leading up to that, my father had his business, construction business, and that was like the stepping stone for me that I knew I had to get stuff done, because the way it was looking and things were like, we was poor. I mean, like we was poor, and I knew as the oldest that like I had to do something, and I had to make something of my situation and go from there. And did I achieve that? Yes, I did. I ended up having my own apartment. I had money in the bank. Them Nike shoe boxes and them Jordan shoe boxes was all full of, yeah. I owned 2 cars. So, I felt like when you are 25, 26, it was like, you know what, I'm going somewhere and I'm feeling good. I feel like you can conquer the world. And small wins leading up to that, and that's how I learned to be a boss in a waltz.
Like a boss, who the boss player?
And that was a long-term goal that you had taken short-term actions in order to accomplish.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very, very thankful for my parents, first and foremost, my grandparents, to instill the work ethic.
So I know that you've talked a lot about previously about how your dad taught you and your siblings how to have a hustle mentality.
Well, for me particularly, yes, because I'm the oldest out of the clan. So, and it's just by nature. That's just normal what you do with your first child. But he still did not want me to do that. He wanted me to have a better life. Didn't know that it was going to actually save my life, because he was trying to teach me, but didn't realize how important it is that they build shit every single day. So there's always going to be work.
Right.
Just seeing that, and then growing up in the inner city, you develop all these different type of talents. Some more than others, whatever. Balance.
That's another key word I kind of want to touch on, is balance. So the second principle was balancing coverage, but it's not just coverage that needs to be balanced. It's also long-term goals and short-term actions. You need to have a balance between that also. Because if there's no balance between, you're just doing all these actions, but you don't have a goal that you're working towards, you're doing all these actions for what? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But if you are consistently acting and balancing that out with your goals that you have in store, you have a direction. You have a place that you're trying to get to. You have a place that you're going. And then even just because you reach one goal, it doesn't mean that you stop there. You
Right.
keep going. You create another goal, keep going. Do the actions that leads up to that goal. And then being able to balance that in your lives, that's so important. And that's something that I'm learning now. That's something I'm learning. I'm learning how to balance short-term actions with long-term goals. What word am I looking for? One of the principles with preparation and adaptability. It's like if you're not prepared, you have nothing to adapt to. And so that's kind of where that comes into play too. So making sure that you have something that you are preparing and planning for and adapting or acting accordingly, I should say. And so number 7, resilience and consistency. The cover 2 defense requires resilience and consistency, especially when you are going against a high-powered offense. And so when you are resilient and when you are consistent in your play, that's when you see the results. It's not from like a one-hit wonder and done. No, it's not like that. And that's where resilience and consistency comes in, because when you're consistent with those short-term actions and you're resilient and you're pushing and you're pushing and you're pushing and you're pushing and you're pushing, eventually you're going to make a breakthrough.
Yeah.
And then you're going to send the offense to the bench and let your offense come onto the field. But you know what I mean? And so when it comes to resilience and consistency, we all know that life can be challenging. But if you stick to the plan, stick to the script, and you're resilient in your strategies, you're resilient, you're consistent in your playmaking, you'll start to see the results that you want to see. And things will start to change, things will start to happen. You just gotta have faith.
You gotta have the will.
Be resilient.
You could have faith. You can be resilient. You gotta have the will.
But do you think will and resilience goes hand in hand?
Sure. To some degree, absolutely. Yes, indeed. But in the long run, you just have to create overcoming obstacles, because daily you're going to be facing those things, and just being able to balance or to recognize what's for you. Then you know how much to take, how much not to take, because we all go through that. That's part of life, and applying it to any way to your long-term goal. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So along that, you're like, okay, it's small wins that leads up to the main goal.
Right.
Which through that process you develop for a second goal, then a third goal, and then you get what I'm saying?
Yep.
So yes, that's the best way I've always learned it. I failed so much, and I didn't, not in a bad way. I don't know, just wasn't the smartest kid, but in other areas, I'm a sniper.
Pew, pew.
I'm a sniper. I'm a living proof of that.
What's the importance of resiliency in your life?
Being able to overcome anything, any obstacle that you face, and not take it too far, or depths to where it'd be too far for you to come back. And it's okay. We all go through things, and it is the decisions that we make. Yes, some we're not going to be perfect and make the best or the right decision, and it's okay. You're a human being, and when you understand it on that level, then you'll be all right with anything you have ahead of you. So if you want to go and drop it like it's hotter at the scatter, then please do so. Because the minute church is over, what time? As soon as it's 6 p.m., cotton candy, sweetie, go.
Let me see your Tootsie Roll.
I said, hold up, wait a minute.
Just not letting anyone tell you, and then you get influenced in believing all this bullshit that's going around. And, just stick to you and what you know is true to your own self.
Right. And I think that's so important, is being able to true to your truth.
Whatever that may be. Absolutely. This is the great thing about life, is that living, and now I'm saying this because I'm an adult sometimes, is that you get to discover so many things, and that I promise you, the next person that you go to the Starbucks or your local grocery store will have it worse than you on all levels. For sure. It's not always just about what the person's trying to do or achieve and try to get to. You just sometimes got to move in silence.
That's true.
Or any way that the person feels like that they want to be at.
There's so many different. We have several gems that were dropped here today, and there's so many different life principles that have come through just sports in general, and different life values that come through sports in general. And so it's football season, so of course we are excited for that 100%. But when it comes to cover 2 defense, these are the 7 life principles that we felt that we can apply to our lives and things that we've been able to take away from it. Ses is more of a football expert than I am because I was only a watcher on the DVR. I was not a player or play a Madden or nothing.
I don't know if I'm more than you. But maybe just understand it a little more. But yeah.
That's truths on the roofs. But like we said, guys, so those are numbers 4 through 7. So number one is trust and teamwork. Number 2, balancing coverage. Number 3, preparation, adaptability. Number 4, playing your zone. Number 5, overcoming vulnerabilities. Number 6, long-term versus short-term and balancing it. And number 7, resilience and consistency. What are some life lessons that you've learned from just watching sports in general? What are some principles that you feel like that you can apply to your own life that you've picked up from either your favorite defensive strategy? This is actually a defensive strategy that Ses really likes, which is why we talked about cover 2 defense. What are some defensive strategies? It doesn't even have to be a defensive strategy. It can be any type of play that you've seen and you're like, dang, this speaks to me in this way. So what are things that speak to you when just you don't even realize it and it does? And then it just makes you and your life more meaningful. It's something that just not only can enrich your life, but enriches others as well. So what is something that you feel like that you want to share with other people, or that you want us to share for you? Or you can jump on our podcast and share with other people and join Ses and I in that conversation. But until that time, visit us on all our social medias. Where can they find us at, Ses?
www.fromthegate.com.
Yes, sir. Thank you for listening to From the Gate podcast. I'm Lisi.
Ses.
Deuces.